Welcome back to Magic Hour Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Taylor Page.
And I'm Claire. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
I am so buzzing. Like this last week that we're just getting back from has been the most magical witchy week in my life. Like on Tuesday, we had our Samhain ritual. On Wednesday, I met Pam Grossman, and I know we talked about that on another pod. And then this weekend, we just went on a cabin trip in Idlewild, California. We stayed at this place called the Fairy House, which was really magical. And it was just the most euphoric time, just being with the entire coven, full attendance, and my husband and my sister and my brother-in-law. And it was just the best time.
It was so magical. And what a perfect week for your birthday week. I mean, you couldn't have cooked up a better week to celebrate you and a better weekend. It was just so magical and just such a great reminder of how, I think gifts are amazing and important, but intentional time spent with the people that you love, like time carved out to go on an adventure with the people that you love, to me is like one of the most important and special things we can do with the people that we love and for ourselves. So it was just so wonderful to be with you all and to be with Ari and Derek and Nikki, who are so amazing. And yeah, it was just so, so wonderful.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times in adult friendships, people struggle because life goes so fast and we all have so much responsibility and we're working so much that it can feel like you have to plan so far in advance to see your friends. And then when you see them, it's just like catching up about what has happened instead of making new memories. And I think that like cabin trips and weekends away are such magical containers for fostering friendship and putting as much time, energy, and effort into friendship to get it back. Like to have that community feeling is so important because instead of just like catching up, we got that out of the way. We knew what was going on with each other. And then we got to just be and play and hike and dance and explore and make new memories. And I feel like sometimes there's almost this feeling of friendships sometimes feel like dead limbs that we're like dragging along with us because we're not pumping any life and new life into it. It's all about just catching up with them and kind of feeling obligated to see them. And I think that this cabin trip was so important and just made me feel so deeply held and loved in the best way.
I'm so happy. It was so magical. I talk about this a lot because I am not in a romantic partnership and haven't been for a long, long time. And I think our society kind of undervalues friendship and community and like really puts a lot of weight on romantic partnership. And it's like, that's what we all need to find. And when we find it, that's the person that we do all our fun things with. And not that that's wrong. And of course, romantic partnerships is amazing. And Ari was a part of this experience as well. But I think really valuing our friendships and really putting energy into them as well is so amazing and so beneficial, and creating community. I mean, we have a little community in our coven with these ladies, and we're here to support each other and uplift each other and remind each other of our brilliance. And it's so wonderful to have many people in your life doing that, not just like one person, not just a romantic partner. Like we can have that in so many ways. And just really being intentional to carve out space and time and putting energy into those relationships is just so rewarding for everyone.
Yeah, I so agree. And it was so beautiful because we had so many different like layers to the weekend. And when we were all tired and winding down, we all gathered in a circle and like passed a new tarot card deck, the Heroine Tarot, and we were drawing cards from it and passing it around in a circle. And it was like really funny because Ronaldo, my dog, he's like 16 and I think he has dementia. And we had to obviously bring him to the cabin with us. And it was not dog proofed at all or baby proofed. Like he could have fallen through the ceiling and like the rails like everywhere. So he had to be really confined. And people like usually he just wanders around the house and does whatever he wants. But instead we had to be like constantly monitoring him and putting him in his bed. And we pulled a card for him and it's like, are you feeling trapped and powerless? And it was like so sad. He got the devil card. It was really sad. But I pulled the 6 of Pentacles, and it's like the card of like giving and receiving and abundance and like the balance of giving and receiving. And it's also very pertinent for the theme of this episode of like aligned abundance with Emma. It connects back. But I feel like for the first time, and I've been pulling the 6 of Pentacles, periodically for the last, I don't know, close to a decade that I've been working with tarot cards. And like this weekend, it really actually clicked with me. It was like the felt experience of what the Six of Pentacles really is. And I felt like it kind of gave me a breakthrough moment that sometimes when we just pull cards in the midst of an experience, we can understand the meanings of the cards so much deeper than just pulling them in the same format, in the same day, at the same time, in the same space every single day. Like being in this place, and I pulled the Six of Pentacles and I was like, yeah, I've never been in a place where I have given so much, like time, energy, effort, everything. Like I'm giving everything to everyone at the deepest level more than I ever have. And I've also never received so much, like time and love and generosity and kindness and abundance, like in all forms. And it truly was, it unlocked something for me to pull that tarot card in that moment because I truly understand what the frequency of the Six of Pentacles is. And to me, kind of connects back to that duality of like both sides of the coin and that being so important. And sometimes if we're feeling stuck or blocked or like we're not receiving abundance, if we flip that into where can we give more to the world around us, sometimes that's the secret formula or secret sauce to receive more. And I just really felt that in a profound way over the weekend.
Yeah, it was so cool that you pulled that card because it was such a perfect representation of the weekend. We were all there pouring all our love into you and each other and, celebrating you and lifting you up and doing all the fun things that you love. And you had literally created that weekend for us to get to do that in. Like it was your idea, it was your intentions and action that created that weekend and made that happen. It's just such a beautiful reminder of like when we can give, we also open the frequency to receive in such a powerful way.
Yes, absolutely. Ugh, I'm like going to be on a high from that weekend for years to come. It was so magical. Before I introduce our guest today, I also just wanted to briefly talk about something. So, a hummingbird reached out and was talking about politics and stuff like that. And I just kind of realized like Claire and I, like we think it's obvious where we stand. And I know politics can also be like a really tricky subject and this and that. And it's like so much bigger than just politics at this point. It's like morality as well. Like it's gone so far left and so far right and so extreme and so polarizing and so intense. So, because somebody reached out and I felt like, oh, it's kind of obvious sometimes. I think it's obvious. And then also, my therapist is like, you're in the habit of over explaining yourself. So, I'm like, I trust that the hummingbird community knows where I'm at. But Claire and I are talking about this, and we've been really intentional about politics because the mission statement of Magic Hour is like a safe space to come reconnect with your magic and to see magic more in the world. And I don't want to come on Magic Hour and be a regurgitation of news stories and what's happening and outrage, even though, trust me, I grapple with that in my offline hours. Instead, I feel more aligned and authentic if I get downloads about what's happening in the world or something from my area of expertise that I then want to share. That feels like it's in my zone of what I can contribute instead of regurgitate. And so we have purposely kept Magic Hour to be a place for that, for love, for hope, for joy, which we think also reflects where we are politically as well. So we just want to use this opportunity to say, because I think it does resonate with me to just be clear on that in case anyone had any guesses that we do not support fascism in any form. We support rights for all human beings and we are all love based and we do not support what is happening under this administration at all.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing it up, Taylor, because obviously it's something that in our friendship and in our personal lives we talk about a lot and we're grappling with daily. And I'm sure the hummingbird community feels the same way. We're in such a scary and painful moment and so many people are hurting and so many people are afraid and we just wanted you all to know that we love and support you and we are also grappling with those things, trying to intentionally create a space where we cannot be in that energy and where we can remember the magic and the love. But I do think part of that is of course anchoring into the truth that what's happening is wrong and we don't support it and we don't support this administration and the injustices that they're enacting daily upon our neighbors and our friends and our loved ones. Every single human being deserves to live freely with love in their most authentic vibration. And of course, we believe that's where all the magic lies. And so we're trying to create more magic in that way, but just wanting to send love to all of you who are, I'm sure, feeling the pain and fear of this moment. And hopefully, this community and the magic and love that we create in this community is helping you get by, because it's definitely helping me feel hopeful.
Me too. And that's so well said, Claire, when you were like, that's where the magic lies, like respecting and loving each other. I was like, mic drop and a half. So now that that's cleared up, I think it's, like I was saying, so obvious to you and I, but just wanted to draw that little marker in this episode. And it's also so hard because we put out so much content in the world. And sometimes I'll be like, I posted this on my Instagram story, or now there's this in this intro, but like not everybody consumes everything. So I like periodically sprinkle where I am. And then if people find it great, and if they don't, like instead of rage quitting on me, reach out and ask. Like that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're here to be in this struggle with you. We are in this struggle with you. We're all in it together. And the more we can remember that and be with each other and form those links of positive connection and understanding, I think the better chance we have at overcoming this movement of hate and division.
Yeah, and I think all of this collective shadow being so pronounced is also sometimes like its darkest before the dawn energy. It's activating us all collectively. We're all really being invited to step into more power. It's such a masterclass era, as I've been saying. So I hope that magic hour, just like you said, Claire, is a beacon of light through this. And I think magic hour as a place to reconnect with like joy and power and magic and intuition is like kind of exactly what the world needs right now. We really feel like we've lost our way because spirit really is all love and we are spirit, and we need to remember that. So anyway, now that that is said, I feel a lot better about it. I like was talking to Claire before this. I was like, we've never really said it, and I think we've like hinted at it. We've danced around it. We've said things that are adjacent, but now you guys can really know. So I'm so excited to get into this conversation with Emma today. She is just such an earth angel. She's so sweet. I was on her podcast back in the day, very like 2022, maybe, or even 2021. I think 2022. And yeah, she's just so supportive. And it was because of me being on her podcast that I got invited to the UK to do Mind, Body, Spirit Festival in London. So just really grateful to this powerful woman doing amazing work in the world. So, without further ado, Emma Mumford is the UK's leading manifestation expert, a 4-time best-selling author, and a renowned speaker. As the host of the #1 spirituality podcast on iTunes, Aligned Abundance, and a trusted law of attraction YouTuber, Emma has empowered hundreds of thousands of people worldwide to manifest their dream lives. With over a decade of experience, her transformational teachings blend mindset, energy work, and spiritual alignment, guiding others to step into their most abundant magnetic selves. Emma is the best selling author of Positively Wealthy, Hurt, Healing, Healed, Manifesting Rituals, and Aligned Abundance, offering practical tools and insights to help people unlock their limitless potential. Through her books, coaching, and content, she helps others transform their dream life into an abundant reality. Welcome, welcome, Emma Mumford. Emma, welcome to Magic Hour Podcast. It's so exciting to get to reconnect with you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat today.
Yes, and we were talking before we hit record about how I was on your podcast like 3 years ago. So it's been a while since we've connected.
Hasn't the time flown? I feel like multiple lifetimes have happened since then for us.
I know. It's been such a whirlwind. And I was like, I loved going on your podcast so much. And then I know you have 3 books in the last 3 years. I was like, get this girl on Magic Hour. We need to talk about her book right now, one of her books right now. So we like to start the podcast by asking, what is your sun, moon, and rising?
So I'm a Virgo sun, which you already guessed, so it must be that obvious in my energy. I am an Aries rising and an Aquarius moon.
Interesting. I'm an Aries rising as well. And yeah, before we recorded, I was like, you're giving Virgo. And you're like, yeah, I love that big three. I think that's so balanced between different elements and even your moon being in the 11th house as an Aries rising and like friendships and communities and fostering community. And I think Aquarius has a special connection to manifestation as well. And Aries rising is so like brave and leadership and pioneering. And then Virgo creates the systems and the structures. Like, no wonder you wrote 3 books in the last 3 years. I see it. I see the vision. Amazing. And so the second question that we like to ask is, how does your intuition speak to you?
Is it claircognient where it's the knowing? So for me, I have always just had this like knowing of things. And yeah, obviously, when I spiritually awakened and started learning about intuition and, opening up the crown chakra and all these amazing things, I think I had a very normal experience of doubting my intuition, being like, oh, you can't trust that. Where's that voice coming from? Second guessing myself. And I think that's something that I definitely had to work with over the years is I used to be an ex people pleaser. I would second guess myself all the time. That was definitely a trust relationship or breakdown of relationship that I had. So my intuition's been a really interesting journey over the years of people joke to me all the time how psychic and intuitive I am. And I know I am, but it's really taken like years to trust that and trust that for myself. Obviously, I don't read people, but trust that for myself. So for me now, it speaks to me through knowing, through words, through just downloads of getting like download drops. And it's just like it's just a knowing of like, yeah, I need to do that or no. And I really feel like this is what has guided so much of my alignment teachings as well, of like what is in alignment, what is not in alignment, figuring out what a yes in your body is, what a no in your body is, and also what it is in your nervous system as well. So I definitely think that intuition ties into that nervous system work as well. And yeah, it's kind of like a multifaceted answer of I'll listen to the intuition, tune into the body, and kind of get the guidance from all aspects.
I love that answer. And it's so true. Nervous system and intuitive development are so interconnected because it's a physiological function. Like intuition is tied to the nervous system. And when our nervous system is dysregulated, that's when we start to mistake fear for intuition and get so in our head about things. And it takes a certain level of nervous system regulation to be able to trust our intuition because we'll be getting messages of like safety and solutions and how to move forward. And we won't really embody them or act on them if we're dysregulated because the higher frequency of intuition won't resonate with us if we're in that lower state, our resonance. So it's so true. And even me as a medium, like sometimes readers get like jitters or nervous before a reading, but it's not that we're nervous, it's our nervous system revving up so that we can heighten our energy to a level where they can lower theirs and we can meet in the middle. So I love that answer. And Virgo rules the nervous system. So there you go.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes. And the other thing that I love about your answer is I see claircognizance so tied to Aquarius placements. Aquarius, as the water bringer, it's an intuitive sign. Like it's bringing intuition, which is like the form of water to everyone. And that like sudden flashes of knowing to me, if you have prominent Aquarius placements, I'm sure the hummingbirds listening really resonate with that. And I also liked how you said, I'm learning to trust my intuition for myself. And to me, that's the most advanced form of intuitive development is self-divination because we care so much about the answers and the outcomes and the messages. And also, we know so much. So it's like, is this my imagination? Is this what I want to be happening? And so that's why I think sometimes the best intuitive information, whether it's professionally reading for someone, practicing reading for someone, or reading for ourselves, is information that surprises us because it shows that it's not our mind coming in and kind of trying to fill in the blank or answer the question that we want answered.
So true.
Let's go into your book, Aligned Abundance. I've so enjoyed getting to make my way through this. And I really want to start by talking about miracles. And I love how you talk about miracles in the book. And something you say on page 32 about miracles is that sometimes we block our miracles by thinking they come from an outside source rather than an inside shift. And that like stopped me in my tracks and gave me full body chills, because that is so true. I think with this work of like manifestation and calling in miracles, there's this Hollywood version of that that's like, and then everything stopped and an angel came down from heaven and handed us the key to our new house. I know that's a exaggeration, but you know, there's some subconscious connection to that outside in rather than inside out. And I really loved how you talked about miracles in the book, because I really think happiness is an inside job, magic is an inside job, miracles are a choice. Like there's all of these inside aligned things. I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said so perfectly, it is a choice. We can choose to see miracles or we can choose to feel that everything is against us. And that's not to take away from people's real life experiences because, when we face struggles, when we face challenges, that is when we need a miracle the most. But like you say, sometimes it can feel like, well, I need this miracle, but then does someone even ask for the miracle? And then are you moving through the manifestation process to actually manifest the miracle? And I love referencing A Course in Miracles in this, because this was the shift that I had from reading that book, was that a miracle is not the end result. It's not the money coming. It's not the bill being paid. It is the shift within yourself back into regulation. It's the shift back within yourself to your truth, to your connection, to that grounded energy of, I'm going to be okay either way. I trust in miracles. I trust in solutions. I trust the universe has my back. And I was actually reminded of this so recently. Over the last month or so, I've been really kind of challenging myself to like go back to the basics, manifesting some miracles, like, because I was just getting so frustrated with the situation. And I was like, Emma, you literally tell people to manifest a miracle, walk your talk and like ask for a miracle. So I was like doing my process, going through this. And it was just that such needed refresher and reminder of, it is a choice. We can choose miracles in any given moment. We can choose fear or we can choose love. We can choose to see possibilities and opportunities and support, or we can choose to see closed doors and that is never going to happen. And again, when the subconscious mind pipes up and, says it's never going to happen, who are you to have that? The money's not going to come. We have to give it love. We have to talk to it. We have to reassure it. We have to deal with the cognitive mind, of course, because that is very real and it's happening. But one mantra that I swear by, which I would love to share with people, especially for money manifestation or money miracles, is the money always comes, the money is always met. This was a mantra that came through to me when we manifested this house. And it was probably my biggest money manifestation to date, like challenge. And it was just looking so impossible because, as you might know, as a self-employed person, it's very difficult with your tax returns for mortgage providers to like give you an accurate figure. And I'd basically just gone limited, which screwed everything up. So I was like, great, I trusted my intuition to go limited. And now the mortgage provider is saying, no, you can't have this mortgage because you've only been limited for a year. So I was faced with these like real problems and these real things that were happening from the bank. And also we needed to manifest £80,000 more from my salary ideally to get this house. And I was like, okay, how do I just manifest £80,000 in 2 weeks? How do I manifest the bank saying yes to my accounts? How do I manifest the bank looking past this block of only being limited for a year when that is their rules? That is a set thing that happens in all banks. So that mantra just dropped into my head one day when I was like, okay, I can choose to sit here and spiral, or I can choose to sit here and believe that by some miracle, this is all going to work out. I don't know how. I don't even know the mortgage process really to know how this could resolve itself. And when it dropped in, I just instantly felt the sense of calm of the money always comes, the money is always met. If this house is meant to be ours, it will be. And it just grounded me, centered me every single time. So anytime I had a wobble, I said it. Anytime I was like, is it going to happen? I would say it. And within 2 weeks, our mortgage provider is spiritual as well, which was very handy. And she called me and she said, Emma, I don't know what you've been doing with your unicorns, but she said, I have never seen this in my whole career, but they've approved it. And you've got your 80,000 you needed. Your accounts are good. They're going to accept it. And I was like, what? And she said, they normally come back saying they have more questions. They want to dive into it a bit more. She was like, no questions asked. They've given it to you. And she was like, I've never seen this in my whole 20 years. And I was like, what? So that is the proof of the miracles when we can ground into faith. not get caught up in the hows, not get caught up in, oh, well, they've said it's not possible, or they said this, I didn't know what was possible, which probably helped that situation a little bit as well, of just being truly open to all possibilities. So with miracles, we can't control miracles. Miracles are that shift in awareness and shift in how you view the situation. So if you desperately need to manifest that money to pay a bill, you could spend that week stressing and spiraling and dysregulating yourself, or you could ground in, repeat the mantra, believe that a miracle can and will happen, draw upon your lived experience as well, because that's important, of when miracles have been met before, solutions have come, money's turned up. Draw upon that lived experience, because that builds that trust muscle, and know that anything can shift in any moment. And it starts with how you view the situation. So I love miracles. They're great.
That's so beautiful. And so, in that example, that moment when the mantra came to you and you got out of worry and scarcity consciousness and into just this peace that no matter what, it was going to be okay and it was going to work out. Whether you got the money or you didn't, you were on your path and everything would be well. That is a miracle because it's a complete transformation in that moment that then allows you to move forward on the path with more grace and awareness and trust, and makes you more quote unquote magnetic for the external miracle to match the internal shift.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is that alignment piece of coming back into alignment with your body, with yourself, with your beliefs, and then aligning with the timeline of where that manifestation exists. So, although the miracle might not turn up, right there, then the miracle has already happened, because you've shifted into that mindset of, maybe it's peace, maybe it's joy, maybe it's just feeling okay. And when we connect to the feeling, because remember, energy is feelings, emotions, then we get to experience miracles. Suddenly something pops up or money's refunded to you, and you think, wow, what a coincidence, or wow, like it all just worked out. And I think sometimes people can say, oh, that's all right for you to say, but I'm in this really difficult situation and I really do need a miracle. And I think it's just really important to really be open to all possibilities, because there are infinite possibilities of how miracles can come to you. And it's just having that openness to let it in.
Yeah. And kind of going back to what I was saying about some of the best intuitive information surprises us. That to me also is connected to miracles and all types of like divine communication, intervention, and creation, where it operates outside of our limitations, resistance, imagination. Like it's so much bigger and more perfect than we could plan for ourselves. And so I feel almost by definition, if we can think of it in just a linear way, that's like this to this to this, and this is how it has to happen, and this is the timing, that's not in the same frequency as a miracle to me. That's more of like a plan or a vision or a goal. But a miracle operates outside of our linear thinking structure.
It so does. Like you say, you can try and control it and say, well, I need it to come by Friday at 5 p.m. I need this to happen. And that's not, if you do actually have to pay something by Friday, 5 p.m., like that's a very real thing that you need to consider, of course. But I also think it's important to look at your backup plan as well, your plan B. I think there's so many teachings out there that are like, you should never consider plan B, plan C, you're failing, you'll tell the universe you want that. And I just do not believe that's true, because when we're so fixated on plan A, it going right, we then fear and spiral. And there's always that kind of voice in the back of your head that's like, well, it might not come. And then what you're going to do then? So when you can face your worst case scenario, you find the peace, you find the acceptance, and you ground back into all possibilities, because you are accepting and almost making a plan of, okay, if that money doesn't come, then what is the solution? What can I do to support myself? What can I have in place to help me with this? And that's when the miracles come in, when you address all possibilities, because there's no resistance. You're not resisting the worst case scenario and you're not resisting the best case scenario. You're in that neutral middle ground where, as you said, miracles can operate outside that kind of linear pathway.
Yeah. And I think going back to that thesis of miracles can really be tied to internal shifts, not just external, like gifts. I think too, sometimes the miracle in the internal is like a a download, a knowing, an idea for how to get out of that situation. And I think so often when we think of intuition, it's very similar to miracles, where it's like waiting for a sign outside of us, waiting to be told what to do by an intuitive or a psychic, waiting for external shifts to happen that then give us permission. When in reality, like miracles, there's a big connection to intuition and intuitive information being internal as well. So you might be like, okay, like I'm ready for a lottery ticket or a miracle in this way, when in reality, the universe, your angels, your guides, your higher self is like, post your offerings on Etsy. Like, go do XYZ thing. Go put this old bag that you don't use anymore on Facebook Marketplace. Like, there might be just like kind of surprising ways that intuition is speaking to you or leading you to solutions that are also miraculous and outside of what your mind would have originally thought.
Yeah, and that's that aligned action piece, isn't it? Of, to bring manifestation into reality, we have to meet the universe halfway. We have to co-create. We have to take aligned and inspired action to meet the universe, meet those miracles. So, I even had an example of it last week where I was getting so frustrated with the situation and I was like, I'm just going around in spirals. Like, what is the solution? And I was like, angels, guys, come on, tell me what it is. Show me what I need to shift here. And, I'd gone through the normal like cognitive limiting beliefs phase. Was it my mindset? Was I blocking something? And I kind of had this gut feeling of like, it's something you need to realign in the team. And I was like, no, of course it's not that. Like, that's fine. I need them to do this. It's all good. So I went around the houses, went around obviously all the things that I'd been doing. And then it took me getting to a point where I was like, Emma, you are kidding yourself here. The intuition has come in thick and strong. You need to realign this. So when I had that awareness and that honest conversation with myself and my team and made those changes, literally within hours, boom, the miracles came, the shifts came. I couldn't stop the abundance. And I was like, this is the power of miracles. When we listen, our guides do tell us what the answer is. I had that feeling, but I was putting it off because I was like, no, of course, it's something else. It's something else. But it was that action of taking accountability and taking ownership of that situation, reclaiming my power in that situation that allowed for me to realize that's exactly what it is. And sometimes we have to go around the houses a bit, figure it out, and, try all these different avenues before we kind of listen to the guidance. I think it is that reclaiming your power piece of coming back into your power, listening to that intuition, and then you can't deny it because it's so loud.
Yes, I love that. It also just makes me so happy to be talking about miracles. It's like such a happy topic. And I don't think I've ever talked about it on the podcast yet. So when I saw the chapter on this in your book, I was like really excited to get into it. And we've already hit on a couple of these, but how are some of the biggest ways that people block their miracles?
I would say limiting beliefs and fears around if, for instance, trust is a big part of that. So, one thing I see time and time again in my sessions and my communities, and I can almost predict it to this point. And I have clients say, Emma, how have you just pieced all of that together? And I'm like, it's the same every time. Like, I could write a book, kind of step by step on it at this point. But what I see when people are blocking miracles or even just blocking abundance as a whole is the lack of trust. And the trust always stems down, first of all, to a lack of trust in their own self, in their own decisions, in their own intuition. And it might manifest or it might show up as a lack of trust in others, a lack of trust in partners, etc. And then you get on to the topic, which goes hand in hand with trust, of receiving. And people forget that in manifestation, receiving is still a step. It's the last step. You have to be in the energy and frequency of receiving to actually receive the miracle or desire. And what I see with people who really struggle to trust themselves, their decisions, others, universe, etc., because it always feels like trust is like something external of like, I trust the universe. I trust that this can come to me. But what people don't realize always is that trust always starts within. And we've said this already, everything always starts within, but trust always starts within. Do you trust yourself? Do you trust your body? Do you trust yourself to make good aligned decisions? And once we can marry that with trusting externally with others, with source, the universe, then we look at the relationship of receiving. So I always say to people, what is your relationship like with receiving? How are you receiving gifts? How are you receiving support, help, love, hugs, free coffees, whatever? And every single time someone with a trust issue will say, oh, I'm terrible at receiving. And it's that trusting element as well, trusting yourself to be held, trusting yourself to receive, trusting yourself to, whether it's like receiving love or receiving support, whatever it is, there's that disconnection between the trust and the receiving part. So that is a big block I see. Worthiness is another one as well, feeling worthy of miracles, feeling worthy of their abundance. But it all stems down to that mindset. And lastly, nervous system work. Of course, I'm going to say it. You know, we can talk about the cognitive mind. It's so important, but the body is also keeping the score as well. And that body is the last part, embodiment, where when we manifest, whether it's a miracle or abundance, we first bring it into our crown chakra, into our kind of energy field, our aura. Then we bring it into the body, into the conscious mind. And then we bring it in finally to the body through embodiment, nervous system work. So if we're kind of bringing it in, we can't just keep it stuck here in the conscious mind of limiting beliefs and fears. We have to bring it into the soma, bring it into the body with that nervous system work. And the body has to feel safe enough to hold it and have the spaciousness to also feel safe holding that desire and miracle. So to give an example of that, someone might be like, I desperately need to manifest that money for whatever, a bill, a reason, whatever. But if the nervous system determines that that miracle or desire is a threat or doesn't feel safe, and I had a client actually say this yesterday, she was desperate to manifest a higher income. And I said, okay, what would it feel like in your body to have £12,000 in your account? And she was like, oh, horrible. Absolutely horrible. And I was like, so now you can see why you are self-sabotaging, spending every single penny that comes into your account and never having savings because your nervous system deems it as unsafe. It deems it as a threat. So your nervous system's primal role is to protect, to keep you safe. So if it determines that the love of your life or the money or whatever is a threat to you, even though logically we know it's not, it will do everything in its power to keep it away. And that's that magnetic piece of we're kind of repelling it in our body at that point. So it can never come into full fruition, full embodiment, because the nervous system doesn't feel safe to hold it. So yeah, those are kind of like the biggest blocks, but I could probably share a million more as well.
You said so much that I want to comment on, and I love all of it. So, the receiving thing is so true, and we don't think about it really often. And in your chapter in the book, you give an exercise idea of, and this is already like, as you guys are listening to this, even me suggesting this from Emma's book, feel where this feels uncomfortable in your body. But you have a suggestion in the book of asking a friend or a family member to plan a day for you. And from like the beginning of the day to the end of the day, they take care of everything. They plan everything, they pay for everything. You don't know what's happening. Like you just go along and you receive it. It doesn't mean that it has to be like so expensive for them, but they just take care of everything. And I consider myself pretty good at receiving, honestly. But even just reading that, I was like, it like made me feel so constricted. I was like, I have to sit with something here because I was like, oh, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be difficult. Everyone's, doing their own thing. But on the other side of that, I would be so happy to plan a day for someone I love. And I do that all the time. And so that was really interesting to me. And I really like that suggestion.
Yeah, and it's really confronting as well. So I actually learned about that practice in a book called The Surrendered Wife. And it was a book that got recommended to me to like really relax into my feminine energy more in our relationship. And when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is gold. Like this is the practice that's going to shift everything for people. So I did it myself and it was so uncomfortable. When I suggested it to Alex, my husband, he was like, are you sure? Like what you want me to pick your clothes? I was like, everything. You can't tell me anything. You just have to tell me what to wear. We're going to go out. We're going to have dinner. You're going to choose what I'm going to eat. And he was like, but what if you don't like it? And I was like, it's fine. You're going to pick it. So I even think he was like, what is Emma on? Like, she is not going to be okay with this. And I was like, I'm going to be fine with this. But it really did challenge me in ways that I'd never seen my receiving blocks before. And whether it's a partner, a friend who does it, whether it's a day out, an evening, whatever, it's making it fit for you both. But it's so eye-opening to where our edges are, where our upper level limit blocks are to receiving. And I think so many people don't realize the correlation between our ability to receive and our ability to receive abundance. Because I was manifesting, and this was something that I only kind of really worked on probably in the last 3 to 4 years. I've been doing this for over a decade. So I was receiving, I was manifesting, of course I was, but it was so limited. And when I really looked at my relationship with receiving, where it stemmed from, the root cause, and did all these exercises and tried all these things and really kind of expanded my nervous system to receiving, the level of abundance that was pouring in was like wild. It was like a tap. It was like the tap had been on a little bit. And then when I really kind of tapped into this, it was like, oh, the floodgates came through. So you can receive even if you have, a kind of troubled relationship with receiving. But when you work on that, that's when things are just going to blow your mind and you're going to think, oh, this is what people talk about with manifesting. So receiving is a step and people forget it. They forget that it is a step. And I think in the old school teachings of manifestation, it was very much taught as a step of, oh, your desire's here, be grateful, woohoo, celebrate. And I'm like, hang on a minute, you've got to get in the energy of receiving first. So I always see it as like a two-part step of first, you've got to get into the energetic frequency of receiving, and then you can celebrate, then you can express that gratitude.
Yes, I love that. Thinking from like the universe's point of view or just like that abundant point of view, like, are you someone that's fun to give to? Are you someone that, I'm not trying to personify the universe, 'cause I don't think that's exactly right. But if you were the energy of abundance, would you be easily received by yourself?
Can they find you? Are you easily discoverable? Or are you hiding in a corner?
Yes, exactly. And then I also really liked what you just hit on too with the chakra system and the nervous system. I think you talk about that on page 57 of your book. And I actually wrote it down because it really interested me and how the chakra system lines up with our energy system. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that because I've never heard that and I'm truly fascinated by it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not claiming to be a chakra and energy alignment expert in any way, shape, or form, but from my understanding and from what I've learned over the years, and then when I was told this, I was like, do you know what? This makes so much sense of why it is a mind, body, spirit experience. We hear mind, body, spirit, but do we really correlate all three with manifestation? Not really. It's not really taught anywhere unless you're talking about the energetics of manifesting or like receiving. So it kind of dives into energy work a little bit more, which I think is the secret to manifesting and making it fun and making it magnetic. But what I discovered was that we do call our desires into our aura fields, our energy fields, first of all. So this was what I discovered through the core energy of your desire technique that I also talk about in the book. So once it's in our aura, our energy field, and this is how psychics and mediums can see things. They see possibilities. They see what's in your sphere at that time of, timelines or opportunities and things like that. It's up to you whether you take it or leave it and whether you kind of like bring that in. So I kind of married all of these kind of things that I'd heard over the years from my psychics, from energy workers. And I was like, this makes sense. If we bring it into the energy aura, then it comes through the crown chakra into the subconscious mind with belief work, with limiting beliefs and fears, trauma work, identity work. And then finally, that final piece is the embodiment. And what does embodiment mean? It means to bring it into the body. And the nervous system is that final part of the capacity of receiving. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's like any scientific facts behind that, but I would say this is something that I discovered through talking to so many different people over the years and reading so many different books. And as I kind of pieced it together, I was like, wow, this shifts so much. This makes so much sense of how we manifest. We're trying to like make manifestation this really linear 3D thing. And it is to some degree, but actually it's this really energetic practice. And if we can master magnetizing it into the energy, then into the mind and then into the body, it becomes effortless. So it's kind of it's a process I've been playing with over the years and it's been lots of fun to experiment with it.
That's so interesting. And it clicked something into place. And for me, as an intuitive, is that, when I'm seeing different like jobs or projects or opportunities around people, 9 times out of 10, my clients will be like, I know, like that's been coming to me, or I've been thinking of that, or that's what I want. And it's things I couldn't have known, but they already know. And that really goes along with what you just said about like it comes into your auric field, and so that's what intuitives are also tuning into and psychics are tuning into. And so if that's happening, then it's like give yourself permission to trust those ideas, trust those visions, trust what wants to come through. Because when you go to a tapped in intuitive or psychic, they'll say what you already kind of had an inkling of as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It makes sense.
And so, what is like your top recommendation? What has been the biggest thing on your nervous system regulation journey that has made the most difference for you?
Everyone always wants the tools, the tips, and of course I want to give those supporters because they absolutely help. But the biggest thing I will always say to anybody diving into nervous system work is it's not a linear path. It's not something you can hack or cheat sheet or do a step 1, 2, 3, as much as I would love for it to be that. The nervous system is a felt experience. It's a felt experience in the body. And the way you heal the nervous system is through feeling and through honoring. And there's no set timeline of what that looks like and the unpacking of that. So it's definitely more of a divine feminine energy of listening, honoring, and feeling whatever needs to come up in the body. You can use all the supporters, you can use all the tools out there, but until you address the root cause of the dysregulation, it's going to come back time and time again. And you're kind of just masking over it with those supporters instead of releasing it at its root and dealing with what is causing that dysregulation. So for me, it was trauma. It was undiagnosed autism as well, for sure. But it was very much trauma stored in the body, in the soma, in that nervous system that then impacted everything. And of course, the beliefs and mindset as well. So until I dealt with that and learned to regulate my nervous system and expand the capacity in my nervous system as well to be able to handle situations better, deal with stress better, unexpected things that happen throughout the day. It was a journey for sure. So if the root of your dysregulation is distractions or burnout or, whatever, an unhealthy relationship, for example, until you deal with the root of the dysregulation, the cycle will continue, as we know. So the supporters that can absolutely help to expand that capacity and support your nervous system, and I call them supporters. It's like anything, they help, but they're not going to fix the root cause if you're not dealing with that root cause at its root. So the things that I love to do to regulate is to go on a nice walk in nature, because vitamin D obviously helps to regulate the nervous system, boost serotonin. So great thing to do. Get your face in the sunshine as early as possible in the day if you can. Just soak up, whether it's walking the dog, taking a walk in nature, running, whatever. Just get outside if you can. Walking is brilliant for that. Breath work is another good one, although I found breath work to be quite activating. So it may not work for everybody as a supporter and regulator because it can be quite activating as well. So you've just got to, try it out and see how your body responds to it. Child's pose in yoga is a great one. Grounding exercises or grounding meditations, EFT tapping, one of my favorite things to do. Integral eye movement therapy, if you work with someone like myself, that is a fantastic regulating tool and releasing of trauma and beliefs as well, and memories that might be causing that dysregulation. Cold plunges is another good one, although I am not someone who does that regularly because I'm just like, no, give me the warm bubble bath. I want all the warmth. So you have to listen to your body with that as well. But it's really the key thing that I would say to get started with is look at your expansiveness. So if your schedule is full, cramped, you're not going to be able to expand that nervous system. So the first thing I would recommend is creating spaciousness in your day, in your schedule, in your life, to let your nervous system breathe, to let your body breathe, to just let yourself slow down the pace a little bit, because turning down the noise in life is a great way to regulate the nervous system as well. But we can only do that when we're slowing down. We can only do that when we're present and we're listening. So slowing down, first of all, creating pockets of time throughout the day for that nervous system regulation will just help you to have those moments to go a bit slower, listen to your body, listen to that intuition. So that's where I would say to get started. But Caffeine and sugar is another one that dysregulates the nervous system that a lot of people might not correlate between the two. So if you're having a cup of coffee when you wake up before you eat, you're sending that body straight into dysregulation with cortisol and stress hormones. That's what happens when you drink before you obviously have your breakfast in the morning. So if you can have your coffee after your breakfast or like with your breakfast as you're eating, then that's a much better way that's not going to stress that nervous system out as soon as you wake up. Not looking at your phone's another obvious one as soon as you wake up, and also right before you go to bed. The amount of times I've dysregulated my nervous system by doom scrolling right before bed, it is the worst thing you could do. And then I would be led in bed thinking, why am I so wired? Why am I so awake? When I've just literally been watching the most like triggering stuff on TikTok right before bed. So if you can put your phone away at least an hour before bed, this just really helps the nervous system as well. You can meditate, you can read, anything like that. Anything nice and grounding and gentle is great, but definitely no scrolling.
Yes, all so good. So it's like a two-part process of going deeper into our wounds, our trauma, our shadows, and looking at those and taking our power back so we can relate to them differently. And then doing things for our physical body and nature with our breath, all of those things. And then creating spaciousness and silence to just reset. So I really love that. And those are so many practical tools. And I just want to say about your book, like, this book is that's why I was like, are you a Virgo? Because your book just has everything broken down so systematically and completely. Like, you've done such a good job of really being like, I'm going to explore every single possible facet of this diamond and then make it into organized lists and sections for people. And it's just so helpful. And so I feel like there's so much information in here too about like your process and your stories and what to do to sink into that. So I just want to call that out. Something that you talk about in the book that I feel really connected to, because I think it's one of the kind of collective shadows of abundance. It's like the shadow side of abundance is the manic manifester, the idea of the manic manifester. And you talk about this in the book where it's people who manifest one thing, then they go to another thing, then they go to another thing, and they are never integrating or enjoying or having a somatic experience with what they've just called in. And I really think that the shadow side of abundance, in ways that it can be talked about in the spiritual world, is that it's never enough. Like, abundance has this connotation of more, 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 the most, maximize. And as a Sagittarius moon ruled by Jupiter, I get that. Like, Jupiter just wants everything like bigger, more. And that's like half my birth chart. And I'm talking about this and feel passionate about it because I've fallen prey to this, where you just are like, okay, if I'm doing it right, that means it's always bigger, faster, and more. And that is not contentment. And contentment is like, what else are we doing this for if not to be content? And if we turn into what you call so aptly the manic manifester, where our life satisfaction and our joy and our presence is never really experience because we're always looking to what's next. We're denying the present moment and the magic here and now. Actually, speaking of yoga, I was in my yoga class yesterday, which is such a nervous system regulator for me. And my teacher quoted someone on Instagram called The Wandering Matt. I'm going to look more into his account. But she was quoting him, and this is like a loose quote, but basically saying contentment doesn't mean that you're not moving forward. Contentment doesn't mean that you're not growing. It's the absence of resistance in that process and tension in that process. It's moving forward with peace of exactly where you are, but that doesn't mean just like complete surrender and laying down and not having goals. And I really resonated with that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's so true because, I fall into this as well. I think we all have at some point along our journey. And yeah, I think it's an interesting one because how it showed up for me was when I first discovered manifesting a decade ago. I manifested everything off my first vision board. And that's a very good problem to have, right? I was very lucky, very blessed to have that problem. And it was when the final manifestation came in of selling my first business. I'd manifested the buyer, I'd manifested the price. it was all great. And I was like, great, when that money hits my account, I've made it. Fantastic. I've manifested everything. Life's just going to be fulfilled, perfect, amazing. I don't need to manifest anything else. I've done it. I've done it. And the money hit my bank account and I transferred it to obviously like savings, investments, all the little places it was going to go. And within 10 minutes, my current account balance was the same as it had been previously. And I sat there and I went, huh, you thought you'd feel different, Emma, didn't you? You thought that you'd feel fulfilled and that that money and all the other stuff that you've manifested would fill that big void within you. And it didn't. And this is why I say your manifestations will bring you nothing. Nothing. You have to be that already fulfilled cake. The manifestation is the cherry on top. You have to be that embodiment of the feeling of love if you want to manifest love. You have to be the embodiment of happiness if you want to manifest joy and happiness and contentment, like you said. So I think there's such a myth of we think our desires are going to bring us something and they won't. The secret is you have to feel that now and then your desire is going to show up. So that story was in Positively Wealthy, my first book. That's what inspired me to write that book of what wealth actually means and happiness. And I then went on a big old inner work journey, which was then Hurt, Healing, Healed, the second book, where I explored what that big void was and why those manifestations didn't fill it. And now Aligned Abundance is that kind of reclamation of it all, where I've manifested all the other new intentions that I set after that, but from a total different energy, from alignment, from fulfillment. And now, the biggest question I get asked at the end of every single podcast I do is, what's next? What are you working on now? And my answer will always be the same: nothing. And at first the host is like, what? Like, this is the worst answer. Like, nothing. She's a manifestation expert. Nothing. And I say, yeah, I'm just enjoying the fruits of my labor. I'm enjoying where I am. I am embracing that I've just written my 5th book. I am embracing that I've just got married and manifested the man of my dreams. Like, I have worked so hard for these things over the last decade. I want to enjoy them. And that is the manifestation process. If we're always skipping from one thing to the next, what's next? What's next? It's kind of always reminds me of the Ariana Grande song of like, thank you next. Literally, like that's what I always think of when I think of this. Are we ever really truly saying thank you? Are we ever truly grateful for that desire if we're just passing it off so quickly? And if you think about it like a child at Christmas, if you were at your friend's birthday party and you'd all got your friend a lovely present and you'd gone out and you'd spent loads of time picking something that you knew she would love, she's mentioned it, and you're like, oh my God, she is going to love this. So you're at her birthday party, all of her friends have got her something, and you hand her your present and she's like, yeah, great, next, what's the next one? You'd think, what a bitch. I have put so much time into this. What? You didn't even look at it. You didn't even take a moment to enjoy it. And I always feel like that's an analogy of like what, obviously, as we know, the universe isn't a person, but what it would feel like, if you are not grateful for everything you have here and now, gratitude is what manifests more. So when we look at wanting more, we have to be grateful for what we have now. And, I've really looked at my relationship as well of wanting more when I've been, and what it's like being in this industry of like 6, 7, 8-figure coaches, probably 9 at some point. When is enough ever enough? Like what is our version of wealth, first of all, not what somebody else on Instagrams is, but secondly, when do we reach that point of just enjoying life, enjoying the things that we work so hard to manifest? If it's always a goal and always just more, 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 why do we actually want more? As you said, what is the why behind that? Where is that why coming from? And for some people, yeah, there will be a why behind that and it's aligned for them. But that's what true alignment is: catching yourself in those moments and saying, is this a distraction? Is this comparison? Or is this actually what my soul wants? Is this actually happiness and contentment? Or am I just trying to distract myself with wanting more money, more homes, more love, whatever? What is that more trying to fill? Because if there's a thing there, which might be like a lack or, maybe not feeling enough or worthy. So you just feel like, well, I'll just manifest more money because then I feel successful. Then I just feel like I've made it and I'm needed and I'm wanted. And I hear this a lot from my clients actually, where they say, I thought manifesting more money would make me feel more wanted and more valued. And then I manifested it and I never felt worse. So I think it's really catching yourself in those moments and being like, when is it time to just enjoy the view and enjoy what I've worked hard to create versus when is it time to actually create more? So it's that dance between the masculine and feminine. People always think we have to be constantly manifesting, but manifestation is also nature. And I talk about this so much in the book of we go through cycles and seasons. So does manifestation. We're not meant to be manifesting 24/7. It's not how we actually manifest.
Yeah. And I love what you said about like the birthday present analogy or like the Christmas analogy. And it's really interesting because I grew up with my mom's side of the family Christian and my dad's side of the family Jewish. And so we did Christmas and Hanukkah. We were very lucky. And it was very interesting because in my small town, there weren't very many Jewish people. And I was the only person, like one of the only people in my school that did Hanukkah because I went to a Catholic school. And I got just as many presents as my friends that celebrated Christmas. But their perception of Hanukkah was that I got so much more because it's one
Right.
present a night over 8 nights. So for me, it was like we sat as a family around what we had like a little Hanukkah bush instead of a Christmas tree. And we like sat around the Hanukkah bush and we opened one present at a time and we all waited. We like watched each other open the present. We went one at a time. Then we talked about the present. We enjoyed the present. We sat with that present for a whole day. And it just felt like so many. I mean, of course, 8 presents is a lot. But say like a friend that opens it all in a frenzy and got 8 presents, like their experience of that is so different than my experience. And so I feel like, and they would even express this where I felt like I had more contentment or joy or just integrated that process more fully. And I think also we can get into these like frenzied addictive states where it's like, what's next now? What's next? And the force, like, trust me, as a kid, I wanted all my presents at once. I was like, I hate having to wait every night. Like, this sucks. But as an adult, I'm like, okay, I get it now. This is very magical. And I'm grateful for how it set me up almost like a lesson in childhood to sit with the gifts and not rush through them.
Love that.
Yeah, so cool. And also with the manic manifester, I feel like we're always talking to the universe and we're never listening. And so I think it's like so important to just listen. And sometimes, like, our manifestations are being paused or things aren't going in the right direction because if they did, we would be missing a bigger inner lesson or theme or element of soul growth that we need. And so I think we're so used to talking, talking, talking. And I have a program called Becoming the Oracle. And like becoming the Oracle is literally the path of the heart listener. It's all about being more of a listener than a talker. And I think that that is also something that the manic manifester archetype is missing, is just the ability to listen more than fill in all empty space. And I think that's a trauma response. Like my nervous system felt so dysregulated in spaciousness and ease based off of past pain and trauma that I did not want to feel and was avoiding feeling. So I scheduled myself every moment of every day until I got sick and burnt out. And I know you probably have had a similar experience to that. And that's why we're both so intentional about saying, no, I'm done. Like, I just finished doing something called Earth Angel Club that I've done since 2022. I'm spread too thin. I've stopped offering that. And just like you, like I saw your post on Instagram about like, I just got married. I don't have a future project. I'm taking the summer off. Like, I'm enjoying myself. And I was like, I resonate with that.
Let her go live.
Yeah, let a girl just enjoy everything that she's worked for. And so I also feel like it sometimes feels a little worse before it gets better with allowing spaciousness in. Like it's, you have to get used to it. And at first, it kind of feels like you're dying and it feels really uncomfortable and you don't know what to do. But it's interesting that this was coming up because in the book, you talk about procrastination and how it's like when we procrastinate, we're avoiding a feeling or we're avoiding an experience that will bring up some feeling that we don't want to look at. And it's really interesting that you say that in the books. My therapist, Rachel Kelly, says the same thing, and I really resonate with it. And I think like feeling is a form of listening where it's like, instead of talking to the universe, telling ourselves what we should want, telling ourselves what we should do, making lists, making plans, sometimes we just need to listen. And when we're like burnt out or procrastinating or in these misaligned patterns, it shows that we haven't been listening. We've been talking. So our life should make sense. It should feel good. We've done everything we should do. But then why isn't it feeling good? Why aren't we feeling aligned? And that shows that, like, when it doesn't feel good, it means you haven't been listening to something deeper.
Yeah, and you used a great word there, should, so many times. I should be doing this. What is should? What is should? It is a comparison. It is a distraction. I should be doing this. I should be doing my practice. And, a lot of the time people will say to me, I've fallen off my daily practice or I've fallen off my manifestation practice. But if you think you should be doing it, that's not manifestation. That's not a spiritual practice. You do it because you know what the price of not doing it is. You do it because it actually feels good to do. So maybe it means that your practice needs shaking up a little bit and trying different things and, making it feel fun. Like things should feel fun. I know I'm saying should, but it should feel fun. It should feel exciting and joyful and expansive and a good use of your time to do that practice. So when we're living in a should, we're living in a place of comparison of, well, so and so's doing that over there, so I should be doing that, or so and so's achieved this, so I should be doing that. But when you said so greatly, listen to ourselves, and this ironically came up for myself in my integral eye movement therapy advanced training I did. We had to spend 7 hours listening to clients. So they were teaching us the art of listening for clients, beliefs, traumas, statements that were coming up. And obviously, I'd done this for like 8 years at this point, coaching. So I was like, I'm a great listener. I listen to my clients all the time. Oh boy, was I humbled during that 7 hour experience where I was like, wow, I heard everything this person was saying. And even they were like, I didn't even know I said that. And I was like, yeah, no, you did. Like I wrote it down, you said it. And it was just such a humbling experience to truly deeply listen to someone's life story, their experiences, their belief systems, their fears, everything. And after that day, after that training, I was like, wow, I have never listened to myself or a client a day in my life, clearly, because this humbled me greatly. So now I literally, like, listening is honestly like a daily practice for me of, instead of shouting at the universe, being like, give me a sign, I need to see this, help me, give me guidance, I'm just like, what comes to me when I just sit and do nothing? Oh, the best download of a book I've ever had. What happens to me when I'm in the shower and I'm just, allowing myself to just relax and switch off? Oh, the best ideas, the best creations. So I really do think there's so much in that silence, so much in that listening where the downloads, the drops, the magic can really come. Whereas when we're too busy going, no, 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 to the universe, like, is it aligned? Maybe sometimes it is, but listening is such a great exercise to do. Like even just listening to your friends talk, or even just like listening to this podcast, when you truly deeply listen, you'll hear so many things that you would normally miss and you wouldn't even know you're missing them. And it's such a great exercise to challenge yourself to listen to people and then listen to yourself. Like you could even voice record yourself talking about a situation, a manifestation, whatever, and then listen to it back and truly listen to yourself. You'll find all these things that you've missed, whether it's blocks, whether it's limiting beliefs, maybe even some positive things, like things that you're missing. And you're like, actually, I do have a positive mindset about that. So yeah, listening is like the new challenge for everybody.
Yeah, I think we talked about how important receiving is. Like our listening muscle is just as important. And I'm so glad we're talking about this because I've even had people write in, this probably happened to you on your podcast, where people are like, I love how you said this, this, and this on last week's episode. And I'm like, that's not really what I said. I'm like, that was a version of what I said, but it wasn't what I said. Or there's like a situation sometimes in like readings where I'll say something like they're showing me this block or they're showing me this that they want to talk about. And the person then goes, that means I'm never going to get the thing I want. And they have this emotional reaction. I'm like, is that what I said? Are you really listening? And obviously, I don't say that to the client. We talk about what's coming up, we work through it, but we are There's a difference between head listening and heart listening. And I think what we're talking about here is heart listening, which is spaciousness, silence, feeling, intuition, flow with the universe, not trying to force or control. And then head listening is like looking for proof of what we want to be true, trying to control things, thinking through should. And also, head listening, it's not like it's inherently bad. It's an important muscle for surviving in this world where it's like, planning, strategizing, goals, thinking, all of those things are good. But it's so out of balance with heart listening. We're so in head listening that I think that that is like one of the biggest things that if we could return to heart listening, and heart listening is so much more than just even hearing what someone is saying to you. It's what's the feeling here? What's their body language? What's the energy? How can I listen with my heart? Because people might be saying one thing, but there's actually a cry for help underneath that. And when you listen through your heart, it's so much richer. So I love that exercise of just listening for 7 hours and how you realize that there's like a whole microbiome of information below the surface that before you didn't recognize, and it made everything so much richer and deeper. And I think it's so sad when we don't listen to ourselves. And I see some clients where it's like their parents never listened to them or their inner child never felt safe to express emotions. So then they do the same thing to themselves. But if we don't really listen to ourselves, how can we ever know ourselves, honor ourselves, live our highest authentic frequency? It's like, can't stress enough how important listening is.
Amen. And as you said, when I was doing that heart listening in the client exercise, I was picking up on all these bodily movements, responses. Like you said, they were saying certain things and their body was responding in another way, which we were taught was obviously what we needed to like ask more questions about. And that was where, either some like nervous system work is or trauma, stuff like that. So it was so fascinating to actually watch people's bodies and how they respond when they're talking about things as well. But I would always say with the head listening as well, is we're only ever able to listen through the head through our lens. And that lens has a projection of limiting beliefs, fears, trauma, identities, and everything that we've conditioned ourselves to believe about the world. So the heart listening, as you say, is that soul aligned listening free from limitations. Whereas the head listening is always going to have a bias towards our beliefs, identities, and fears.
Yes, because the brain is a filter for consciousness. So it has an inherent tie to judgment. This is good. This is bad. This is me. This is not me. And the body and the heart isn't limited by that. It's just like, this is aligned. This is how I feel. This is what's deeper. So, I love that. And also, just going back to the should thing really quickly, I saw a clip on TikTok that said, should is could with shame over it. So it's like, yeah, I could be doing that, but there's also a layer of expectations or people pleasing or scarcity. It's like some way shame is covering up could. So if you are noticing your head listening and you're doing head listening and should is coming up a lot, I think that's also a really good marker that it's time to come back to some deeper heart listening as well. So, Emma, I could talk to you for hours, and I knew this was going to happen because, first of all, I vibe with Virgos so hard, and I feel like Virgos, like, I don't know, are just really interesting. But also, we're both podcast hosts, so we could just talk forever and ever and ever. So, we'll cut it here. I will not ask you what comes next. Don't worry. Even that question like makes me upset a little bit. Like it like makes it like revs me up. So where can people find you and work with you? And can you shout out your podcast and all the things?
Yes. So my podcast is called Aligned Abundance, and you can listen to over 8 years worth of episodes, including Taylor's episode. You can find me at I am Emma Mumford on all social media platforms. I have a YouTube channel, Emma Mumford, where I've got 12 years of videos, like 900 videos you can dive into, all on topics like we've discussed today. I've said my podcast, but you can find everything. Books, Aligned Abundance is a new one that's out. They're available worldwide, wherever you get your books from. And everything that I've mentioned for ease can be found at emmamumford.co.uk.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. I've loved it. Great questions.
Welcome back to Sitting with Spirit, my loves, the part of the podcast where we sit with our angels, our guides, our loved ones in the spirit world. I give the messages for the collective. As always, take what resonates, leave the rest. And if you know someone who could use this message, please send it their way. So, the first thing I want to share is a little intuitive development tip that I shared with my mentees, and that I also feel called to tease out and share in a solo episode, but for now, I'll give the Spark Notes versions of what came through. And if you're familiar with me and my approach to intuition, then you know clairsentience is my main psychic clair. It came on first, feeling and knowing, clairsentience and claircognizance. And I really think that feeling is one of the most important clairs, if not the most, because feeling ties it in so that we can really understand we're connected to psychic information and not random bursts of imagination masquerading as intuition. So, clairsentience, psychic feeling, when you get an image, when you hear a word, you get a feeling with it. And as I say, that feeling is never fear or anxiety. So, the message I want to give today is that one of the most powerful ways that you can develop your intuition and develop your clairsentience, which is that psychic feeling, is not running away from your own emotional experience in your everyday life. Like sitting with our feelings, feeling our feelings, checking in with our inner child. Not only does this clear open our heart space so that we can be a vessel for more receiving, but it also gives us a really rich bank of emotional memory for our angels and guides and spirit to draw from, that we understand what that emotional experience is. We understand what that feeling is. And we are communicated with so much more efficiently. And when we don't feel our own feelings and when we aren't really steeping ourselves in our emotional experiences and we're trying to think our way through life, plan our way through life, logic our way through life, I really do think it stunts our intuitive development and it stunts our clairsentience and it gets us into overthinking, control, imagination, and into the head where that intuitive, juicy information is really in the heart. So feel your feelings, sit with your feelings, ask your inner child what they want you to know about the feeling. Journal about feelings, pull a card about what your guides want you to know about the feelings, or just tune into what your guides say, because there's so much richness there that will also take your intuition to the next level, because it's easy to make the signs fit. It's easy to make the cards fit these attachments to outcomes and what we want to be true intuitively, but we can't fake feelings. We can't manufacture feelings the way that we can try to manufacture intuitive information outside of us. Our body never lies. Our feelings are powerful messengers that we can't control. It's not about controlling them. It's about listening to them. It really is about listening to them and flowing with them. And that's a similar muscle to listening to spirit, flowing with the power, following where your consciousness is being led instead of trying to manufacture something externally. So I'm thinking in season 3, because we're wrapping up recording season 2, but I'm thinking of doing a solo episode on clairsentience for season 3. So if you're listening to this and you're like, yes, I'm such a deep feeler and I would like to know how I can master that more and get more specific intuitive information from my feeling, you have come to the right place. Email contact@magichourpod.com with any of your clairsentience questions, because I really am excited to get recording a solo episode on that. The next thing that I want to go into now is the angel messages for the week. So, as I was tuning into the energy, the very first thing I saw was a phone ringing, and the phone was made of purple light. And I heard, "What is calling you?" And it just feels like there's this connection to following your calling, answering the call. And it feels bigger than that. It feels like a purpose moment, like truly aligning with your purpose on a deeper level. And sometimes there's like what our ego version thought purpose is. Like it has to be this career, this external achievement. And sometimes it is those things, but sometimes it's also a soul lesson, a relationship, a new dynamic, ancestral healing, an experience your soul wanted to have. Like it can be so many things. And so as I was seeing this phone made of purple light, it's like ring, ring, ring. Your purpose is calling. The project is calling. The new chapter is calling. The curiosity is calling. Follow it. Follow it. Say yes to it. Pick up the phone. And purple is my color of like main character energy and passion and creativity and really just like following that whatever is passionate and it lights you up. There's also a connection to spirituality with purple energy. So, what has been calling to you? And as I talk about that, I also get this feeling of like doubting your calling or having imposter syndrome or witch wound coming up. And your angels are like, the phone is ringing for a reason. You are hearing it for a reason. Pick it up and just explore it. And then the next thing that came through was a feeling that I feel like might connect with like half of us. Remember, this is going out to a lot of people. So take the parts that resonate with you. But I felt this block coming up. And our angels were basically saying like an acknowledgement about how far we've come on our healing journey, on our path forward. Like they've really acknowledged we are not the same version of self that we used to be. We've come so far, but there's a little more to go. There's this sense of like we're half blocked, we're half open at this point. And part of the pattern of this that they wanted to highlight was they were making me feel like we've gotten really good at doing the bits that feel comfortable, like the things that don't really push us out of our uncomfortable comfort zone, the path of like our healing journey, following our calling, like they were saying before, going after what we want in this world. Like we've gotten really good at showing up one way, and now it's time to push it out of the comfort zone. And I feel like there's a sense of almost like what we've mastered and maybe wasn't as comfortable before is comfortable for us now. And the yardstick is moving to something that we've been resisting or that's intimidating us. And so as it was coming in, it was really interesting because I saw the throat chakra half in light and half in shadow. And I just got the feeling of like, what aren't you admitting to yourself that you deep down know? You're so good about talking about truth, exploring truth in this area, but where's that half block that you're not looking at or that feels uncomfortable to explore or that is a little bit in shadow? And so there's something about integrating the pieces that we've been resisting and not allowing this mask of like, I've come this far, I'm this healed, or I'm this, version of self now, not letting that be where you stop. It feels like there's still little pesky bits that want to be integrated and acknowledged. And part of this too isn't just on like the healing journey, it's also like what we're creating and ushering in, I feel professionally for some people, but also just like projects that we've been working on. I feel like we've done the parts of them that are like the comfortable parts. And now they're talking about, the uncomfortable parts that bring up the witch wound and the imposter syndrome and that maybe you've been avoiding. That's what they really want you to look at and integrate this week. And then as I was feeling into that, question to consider is where am I playing it safe? Where am I being too measured? Where am I holding myself back from fully diving in a way that isn't super comfortable? And then I got the message, stay the course, stay the course. And it was really interesting because I was seeing this yellow brick road and it was like just this straight line of yellow. And I just got this feeling of just keep going, just keep going. Like that's really a big theme this week is like you're called to what you're called to for a reason. And your angels are like, follow the yellow brick road, basically. And then with that, I felt expansion and up level and like our angels were cheering us on. Like it just feels like there's so much potential for magic right now. And then I saw my symbol of a rainbow, and that's my symbol for new chapters, new projects, new ideas, beautiful new beginnings. Sometimes a rainbow can be a sign of like after the storm, there's a rainbow, and it's like after the difficult time, a new chapter is beginning. So there's a lot of like newness coming in. And part of the energy of rainbow for me too is like embracing all the sides of life. Like sometimes we can really only look for blessings, maybe in like the red and the green, but there's also blue and yellow and orange and purple. And so there's also this message with rainbow, like diversify and enjoy all parts of life and make sure that you're pouring equally into like where your joy comes from. So new chapters, new blessings, new projects. And then to really hit it home, I feel like this is a little redundant, but then I saw a witch taking off on her broomstick. So I feel like our angels are really, being very synonymous with the messages this week. And there's just this sense of it's time to take off. It's time to answer the call. It's time to be brave. It's time to do the parts that we've been resisting or putting off and dive headfirst into them. So I want to go into the mediumship this week. I was connecting with a man in the spirit world. Feels like he passed young to me. I want to say in his 20s, a young man. Felt like he suffered from some mental health issues. I do feel like he would have been responsible for his own passing, but I do feel like it also might have been accidental. So I also heard the names Tim and John, and I felt like it might be two spirit people kind of wanting to piggyback off of the same message. And immediately I got the feeling that he was not good in love and relationships. He felt like a boyfriend or a lover to whoever can connect with him. And I felt heart problems with him. I felt like he had a hard family life. I felt like he had, in particular, a really tough dynamic with his mom. And I also felt his mom to be in spirit as well. And there was a sense of her like having him really young and not being ready and having her own kind of substance abuse issues and just him not being born into a home that ever properly modeled what love was like. And he wanted to share a really important message about people who are born into circumstances where love wasn't modeled for them. They have mental health issues and they don't love themselves. So they're not capable of loving another person the way that they deserve to be loved. And I know some people can be born into those circumstances and they can be the love for the lineage and they can heal those things. And some people never either have the toolbox to make that choice or just never get there with their soul growth journey. And that's what this spirit person feels like to me. And so the message that he wanted to share is that sometimes people who are emotionally unavailable, who struggle with a lot of mental health stuff and depression and anxiety and walls around their heart and trauma, there's a big thank you from this man in the spirit world to his girlfriend or lover, whoever this is for. There's a feeling of you being an example of love for him on the path, a type of love that he never could give himself and was never given to him and his family. And the message I was getting is that sometimes souls are come in and are examples of love and an opportunity and an invitation for that soul to choose love, to heal through love, to grow through love. And if that soul doesn't take that invitation to grow in love with you, it's not any indication of your worthiness or your ability to be loved. It's everything to do with that soul's lesson. And even that soul and that person having that experience with you, feeling for even an instant, much less a whole relationship, what that true love really feels like is so healing on a soul level. And sometimes that's just what they needed, even if they can never fully get the lesson or advanced. That experience of love that they couldn't give themselves or get in family situations that they got through you was so healing to them. So you're like the gift on their path, and they're a lesson in your path. And you're both learning from that on a soul level. And so that's the feeling that I got. Like there was this mutual understanding on a soul level of I'm going to help you step into your power, and I'm from their end the person that can't receive love, and then on the other end it's like I'm going to demonstrate what true love really looks like for you so you can understand and have that experience. And I think sometimes we put a lot of pressure for everything to be figured out in this lifetime. Like, okay, I'm ready to master all my lessons and I'm ready. Why can't this person, heal this amount and meet me here and make the choice that I can see so clearly for them? Sometimes it just takes their soul more than one try. And you don't realize how big of a gift you were in their soul experience and journey, even if they couldn't meet you there, give that back. So you are doing light work in your own way, but then also learning the lessons of standing more in your power and knowing that you can't control other people's timelines or lessons. And there's a really holy, mutual soul growth aspect of that. And I think that that dynamic is so common with the anxious and avoidant attachment styles. I think we're always learning from each other until we can both come into the regulated state. So this is a big thank you from, I feel like, more than one gentleman in spirit that wanted to tack onto this. It was never about you. It was never about love. It was all about soul growth and soul lessons, and you gave them more than you even consciously realize. So I'm sending you all so much love. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your week, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Magic Hour podcast. We are so happy you're here. I absolutely love to connect with you all on Instagram at angels_and_amethyst. I love to get your thoughts on each episode, and I get so excited to get your emails to contact@magichourpod.com. Make sure you're subscribing to Magic Hour so you never miss a new episode in your inbox. We have so many amazing guests right around the corner as always. Please make sure to send your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to contact@magichourpod.com, and we'll enter you into an angel reading giveaway with me, which is just my favorite thing, to get to connect with the hummingbird community in that way. You get a bonus entry if you also send a screenshot of your YouTube subscription and also a screenshot of sharing us on your story and tagging us at Magic Hour Podcast on Instagram. The next giveaway will happen when we hit 288 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We so appreciate you sharing the podcast with other magical people, and it really helps us keep this project alive. To learn more about me, my work, to book a reading with me, to take a workshop, please visit angelsandamethyst.com. And remember, you are magic.